Hello, and welcome to the Online Campus Writing Center's presentation of how to plan for your course assignments. My name is Gabrielle Lynch, and I am your writing specialist for the Online Campus Writing Center. We're going to get started in just a few minutes after we allow everyone to get settled and log in. At this time, if you need any assistance in terms of managing the GoToWebinar platform, please do let me know. You can use the questions, hand raise function, or go ahead and feel free to use your mic to communicate all throughout this presentation. Okay, let's get started. So the name of the game for this workshop is time management. As such, I thought I would go ahead and present directly off of our new website. You can see here, and the time management page that we've created for this workshop. This new website is accessible using the link owlc-tcs.com. For the time management page specifically, you can go ahead and do /time-management. All right, getting started today. This workshop will present 4 steps for effectively approaching your assignments and reducing any extra time spent on things like revising or having to figure out how to redo an assignment that we didn't quite understand to begin with. It's important to remember when we're thinking about time management that time management looks different on everyone. For some people, the idea of starting work on an assignment before, 2 days before it's due seems unmanageable, and others couldn't imagine not getting started a week ahead of time. Both of these methods are completely fine. Everyone has their own needs and their own demands in life, and this workshop should hopefully present something for everyone in all kinds of planning and learning styles. So a little overview of the 4 steps. The first step we're going to look at is paraphrasing the prompt. This is a really important time saver because not only does it help you to be sure you understand the directions that you're being asked to comply with, but it also helps you to put those directions into your own words, which helps you with understanding and not having to continue to review the instructions as you complete the assignment. The second step is outlining. It's a common misnomer that outlining actually requires extra work. Depending on the outlining tools that you use, it can be less work than it would be to not outline your paper. We'll review some of those tools today. Step 3 is saving time on sources. Citing your sources is sort of that sleeping dragon that hides at the end of all of our assignments and can take quite a bit of time. It's not the kind of task that we often want to leave until the last minute, but that's usually where it finds itself. So because of this, we're going to present 3 different ways to manage your sources based on the amount of time that you have left to complete your assignment. Step 4 is revise and avoid surprise. Most of us know that our first drafts should not be our last drafts, but at times planning fails, and that happens to be the draft that we can submit. So just like step 3 and step 4, we're going to review different kinds of revision strategies depending on how much time you have left to complete your assignment in order to complete it quickly, but also with quality. If at any point anyone has any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll pause and we can review the material. Okay, step 1, paraphrasing the prompt. As we talked about, this is one of the most time-consuming parts of completing a course assignment. Flipping back and forth between your work pages and the instructions on Canvas can take a lot of extra time and create a lot of extra frustration. To avoid having to do that, we can paraphrase the prompt in our own words. There are 3 steps to doing this. The first step is to highlight all action or command verbs in your instructions. So these are going to be the kinds of verbs like explain, summarize, evaluate. You want to go through and highlight all of those words and take those words into your Word document that you'll be using for your assignment. We're going to create a little actionable task list with these words, which will help us stay on track. After you highlight those words, we're going to contrast that list with this writing type chart here that we have provided. This chart is a guide to what kind of work you're being asked to do in your assignment. A key step to not having to do extra work is understanding what you need to do when you get started. That way there's no work that's done that ends up being taken out in revision. So after you've written that task list of action verbs, we're going to look here and see whether we're being asked to do expository, analytical, or argumentative writing. We can do this by looking at the yellow boxes full of action words in this chart that align with the different writing types. Once you've identified your writing type, you can see the 3 critical steps that you're going to take in performing that writing task. So for example, if you're doing analysis, you're going to be breaking down an issue into its component parts. You're going to be analyzing how those pieces work together, and you're going to be evaluating the significance of how the parts work. So right off the bat, we can see that that's very different from argumentation, where you're evaluating the significance of a personal argument and justifying a claim with evidence. So in this way, this writing type chart helps you to identify what tasks you should be doing in your assignment and what tasks are out of the bounds of what the assignment covers. This helps avoid any undue work. After you've established your writing type, you should write a placeholder thesis for your document before you begin writing. We cannot stress enough the importance of knowing what you want to say before you spend time writing. This is usually the place where students tend to lose a lot of time. They either just begin writing summary of the course materials of the assignment, or they begin writing one argument and end with another, and it creates a lot of frustration when it comes time to revise or when it comes time to receive our final grades. So to avoid both of those things in time management, you can begin by just writing a placeholder thesis. This doesn't need to be your final thesis that gets inserted into the paper. It's kind of just like using directions in order to make sure that you have direction in completing your work. So once you've identified your writing type, you can look at this thesis statement finder chart and utilize the questions for your writing type to decide what your topic, perspective on that topic, and significance of your topic are. These are the 3 components that you need to know before you begin writing so that you can be sure all of your work is aligned to these 3 concepts. These are usually the 3 concepts that are heavily emphasized in the rubric and are typically always expected of our graduate writing. If you find that answering any of these questions is difficult, this is a key sign that we might want to take time to review the course materials for the assignment, or even contact the instructor before you begin, just to be sure that you have a firm understanding of what's being asked of you. If neither of those is an option, you can always review this mind mapping, thinking through brainstorming presentation that we've provided here on the time management page. In this presentation, it walks you through the different steps for brainstorming your content based on the type of writing that you're being asked to do. So it does review similar steps to the writing checklist that we just created, but in addition to that, it will also provide you with specific questions that you can utilize in order to brainstorm content and really understand the material and how you're going to approach it in your writing. So this is a great place to start reviewing this presentation if you find that you don't know how to begin your paper and you're facing that blinking cursor of total frustration on the first page. Before I move on to step 2, does anyone have any questions? Okay, great. We'll keep going. So after we've paraphrased the prompt and we understand what we're trying to do in the assignment, we've created a thesis statement to guide our work so we're not facing too much frustration in revision, we can move on to step 2, outlining. It's a very common misnomer that outlining is an extra step in the writing process. You can actually create your outline in your document without any extra work or putting content in that needs to be deleted later. You can do this by using APA headers with comments embedded. So we have an example that we've shown here that's embedded in the page that you can also download. But essentially, what you're going to do is follow the steps in this graph here. You're going to put your headers in for your APA paper, or you can download the template following this link and the headers are already inserted for you. And then you're going to right-click on the header and click New Comment. This will allow you to embed little notes to yourself about the directions so that as you're writing, you don't have to flip back to the instructions on a different browser page. The time that you save flipping back and forth can be invaluable because as we flip back and forth between pages, we often lose steam as we're writing or we become frustrated trying to scroll between multiple pages. So starting your document by embedding the instructions in the heading levels can really save time as you go throughout the writing process. When you're done with your paper, you can simply just right-click on the comments and delete them. And so it's a very quick way to outline without spending extra time, and you will save time in not having to continually change to review the instructions page. This is also a great way to embed that thesis statement and the action verbs checklist that we created in the first step. If you create a heading level with the different action verbs that you're supposed to be using to complete your assignment, it'll keep you on task because you can constantly look and see what that section was supposed to be about. In this way, you've already organized your thoughts, so you don't have to worry about cohesion or clarity at the end of your paper because you ensured it at the start. Again, to download this template, you can just go ahead and click this link here. If you need the link to this web page, it was covered early on in the beginning of the presentation and will also be available at the end. Moving on to step 3, saving time on sources is probably one of the biggest places that we can find little extra pockets of time to save. Citations take a long time to write if we write them out freehand and we write them out one by one. So to avoid this, we have a couple of sources here to share with you that can help you manage your time, including creating manual citations and software that helps you cite for you. So the first one is the online Writing and Learning Center's in-text citation tool. This is from our own website, and you can find it on its own page at the top of the page under APA resources, but it's also embedded here so you can look at it really quickly. But this tool allows you to click on what you need to cite, and then it provides you with the format that you can use to cite it correctly. This is a really quick way of finding this information because everything's on the same page. So again, you're managing time very effectively using this tool because you're not having to click on multiple links to find what you're looking for. Everything is on this one page in this interactive format. If you scroll down, there's also APA reference entries in the same manner. So it explains to you the APA 7 changes, the reference entry format, and gives you an example. So you can compare the example with your own work. This is a great way of being sure that you're becoming familiar with APA format. While you can copy and paste citations from other citation managers, this helps you to really get familiar with the components that are required and also prevents the errors that happen in those other algorithms that are more designed for commercial use. So this is available here for you at any time. If you do decide that you need a little more assistance in finding and citing your sources, we've created sort of a 3-tiered process to help you identify what sources you should use based on the time you have available. So here on this webpage, you can click on how much time you have. I have 1 week, I have a few days, I have a few hours. All of these are part of being a student, and more than once we'll probably experience the latter. But there are ways to ensure that you get your work done quickly and still at a high quality level, even in the last minute. Let's begin with I have 1 week until my assignment is due. The pivotal goal for where we'd start if we were going to manage our time effectively. If we're in the kind of place where we can begin working on an assignment 1 week or more in advance, there's several tools that the TCSPP library provides to students that can not only help with a single assignment, but can help with the overall experience of your courses, given their ability to track all of the sources that you've read and your notes on those materials, which can come in handy at the end of your program when you're looking at writing your thesis or dissertation. One of these sources is RefWorks. The library provides access to RefWorks through ProQuest. This is a citation management software. It has both online and app features, and it has some very interesting tools to limit the amount of time you spend both finding and citing your sources. So for example, it can save unlimited references in full text articles. This means no more hunting on your computer for the download that isn't really labeled. It can also create references pre-formatted in APA 7. So that is a very easy copy and paste function there. It also lets you annotate your research for quick retrieval of pivotal ideas and paraphrases. This can be very helpful when we are not only writing one assignment with the same source, but multiple assignments throughout a course or throughout our program. Being able to hold on to our initial thoughts and annotations prevent us from having to reread sources later, which saves a lot of time. It also lets you integrate your bibliography into MS Word. This is a really useful function because this way you don't have to be worried about copy and paste errors. Many times when you copy and paste citations from the internet into MS Word, it changes the formatting. It might remove the font or the italic choices, and then you actually end up having to go back in and revise those sources even though you went through all of the process of creating them in the citation managers that are not from the school. So we really caution against using those because while we think that we're pasting the correct citation, the paste function itself ends up messing the citation up. We can avoid that with this, which saves time. To make your account with RefWorks, you just need to use your TCS email in this form here. So this is a live form, so you can go ahead and just enter your information on this page and sign up for RefWorks. When you enter your TCS email, be sure you see the TCS logo at the top right corner. This is confirming that you're accessing your free subscription through TCS. Do not pay for RefWorks. If it's prompting you to pay, it's the wrong screen. So be sure you do see that logo in the top right corner when you're signing up. Another great option, if you have a week or more, is to set up Kurzweil 3000. This is another online and app-based program to help with sources. But this one's a little different than RefWorks because it focuses more on study assistance instead of just tracking references. So for example, it offers help reading by providing inline definitions of all of the words in any document that you put into it. This really helps with comprehension and vocabulary development. It provides highlighting tools with color coordination functions, so you can label a color and then use that color throughout. For example, if I labeled yellow main ideas and purple sentences to paraphrase, if I went back through the source when I was writing, I could just quickly find those colors, which would prevent me from having to read to find the material that I needed to use. It also has a read to me function. This is great for doing your research on the go. So for example, they have an iPad app for this program so that you can listen to your sources as you're driving, while you're grocery shopping, or while you're completing other tasks during your week, saving a lot of time. Kurzweil also helps with writing. You can take digital notes directly in the article. This lowers the need to reread sources again when you're trying to write, and retains a literature review of sorts for if you need to use those sources later on in your career. It lets you write more quickly as well and at a higher quality using tools like its synonym finder and its word prediction options. So based on the sentence you start typing, it provides options for how to complete it in academic English. It also lets you create your bibliographies quickly in APA style. So very comparable to RefWorks, but with a few extra study assistance tools. It's also specifically helpful for multilingual writers. Kurzweil can translate any source into your native language to help enable deeper comprehension and time-saving source synthesis. You can also have your text read aloud in your native language. And using the translation function, you can reverse translate writing in your native language in order to translate difficult academic sentences into English. This can be really helpful in terms of academic writing because this program was specifically designed for academia as opposed to other translating programs like Google Translate that were not designed for academic writing. To make your account, you can follow the directions embedded in the guide here. You'll follow this student registration link and go ahead and complete user registration. As you're using Kurzweil, the user and installation guides are available here as well, explaining how you can use the app and the different button functions for all of the different tools that I just mentioned here. So anytime you need to access it, it's available here. One more option, if you have a lot of time before your before your assignment is due, is to set up an appointment with the TCSPP library staff. The staff offer a great range of ways that you can contact them for help in trying to access sources. So for example, if you're frustrated trying to find a source on a topic and you can't seem to find the sources that meet the criteria of the assignment, go ahead and make an appointment with a librarian. They can help you learn how to use the source search functions of the library or even find the source for you. You can also text the library quick questions about sources and email the library staff. If you access the library's website, they also have a live chat option. We'll see that as we scroll down here to finding sources with the TCSPP library tools. Okay, so these are the tools we can use if we have some time before our assignment is due. If we're down to just a couple of days before the assignment is due, we might not be able to register for these programs, but we can use other library tools. One of these tools is using the library's databases, following the search strings that they've added to the website. So for example, these are called Boolean operators and allow you to search for multiple things at the same time so that you can be more effective in your source finding. The first step that the librarians recommend is using synonyms. They encourage, if you're going to use adjectives, to go ahead and search multiple times with different synonyms in order to expand how many articles you can access. For example, if you're looking for humor, you should include individual searches for funny, comic, and amusing. This is important in order to get the most results you can, which helps you narrow down the best resources. So that you don't have to perform too many searches at the same time, you can also use linking. This is where you put an asterisk at the end of the first word, type "or" in capitals, and continue to type the next key term. You can keep doing this in a very long list, and what it will do is it will search the library's database for any of those words. If you need to have multiple words together, for example, you need to look at both coping and ADD, you can use a capitalized "and" between the two terms, and it will search for sources that contain them both. You can also use truncation. This is really important for avoiding being limited in the number of sources you recover due to spelling differences. For example, coping and cope relate to the same thing, but they're spelled differently, meaning that if you only searched for coping, you might miss sources that titled their work under cope. To fix this, you can use a wildcard to search. For coping, this would be COP with an asterisk. Essentially, you're using the most similar letters between the words. So coping and cope only share 3 similar letters, COP. So then I'd use them with the asterisk, and I'd be able to search for both at the same time. In refining your search, there might also be terms that you're trying to avoid. So for example, one part of the field might be very prevalent in research, but you might not be interested in it. It might be popping up over and over again in your search results though, and you need to clear it in order to get to the articles you're actually interested in. To do this, you can use not to ignore certain words in searching. This helps to avoid topics that are irrelevant to your assignment. Here embedded in this page, we have the library's guide that has more information on each of these steps. Here you can also see the library's chat service, like I said. This is an excellent tool during business hours to ask any questions about these searching steps. For example, if you find that you followed the instructions but it didn't work, you can copy what you searched, share it with the library, and receive an answer about how to fix it so that you can access the resources you need. In our I only have a few days till my assignment is due checklist, we can also use Google Scholar to find sources. Now, Google Scholar is very interesting because it provides us with sort of a map of who cites whom. This is important when we're trying to get an idea of where the assignment topic is in the field. There are 2 specific tools that help us to immediately find powerful and useful articles. This is the Related Articles and Cited By tool. The first one, Related Articles, is Google Scholar's way of categorizing multiple articles that discuss the same topic in the same genre and are citing each other. So what this means is that you're going to pull articles that are all talking about the same thing instead of having to weed through, for example, 4 different cultures' perspectives of ADHD. You can limit it just to the one that you are particularly interested for your assignment. So to use this function, you need to perform an initial search, find an article that you like, and then click on Related Articles under the summary. A new window will pop up full of articles just related to that topic and field. If you're looking for multiple articles on the same topic, I highly advise the Cited By tool. This is a great way to decide which articles are the best use of your time. When we're reading all of these articles, they often look very similar, and weeding through all of the results in discussion can take a great deal of time. You can limit the amount of time you spend by seeing how many people have cited the article that you're looking at. This is also located under the summary. For example, here, there are some articles that are cited by 5, some that are cited by 8, and some that are cited by 13. Chances are the article that's cited by 13 other studies, all peer-reviewed, is the best choice here because it's going to be the most renowned in the field and have the biggest impact factor. If you start there, you'll limit the amount of time you spend trying to get to the crux of what you're looking at. Because Google Scholar searches the entire internet, you might not be able to immediately access those sources upon finding them though. So something that you can do to save time, so you're not flipping back and forth between Google Scholar and the TCSPP library, is to connect the 2. You can do this by visiting Google Scholar, clicking on the left-hand menu bar, using Settings, and clicking Library Links. In Library Links, you can search for TCS. Make sure that the box next to TCS Education System Library is checked. Now, every time that you search, that full text at TCS ES Library will appear next to the source. This will allow you to immediately access the source without having to do any further logging in or web page shifting. This is a big time saver in terms of finding your articles. Now on to the dreaded part of time management, where we all have been before, only having a few hours until the assignment is due. No matter how hard we try, life does happen. Even if we had a plan, sometimes life makes other plans. And we do have some tools in that situation. One of the first tools that we can offer is our pre-formatted templates. If you don't have time to create an APA formatted document, we have you covered. We have 2 templates here that you can download. One that has instructions on how to use the template, including how to make tables and figures and utilize the different features of APA papers. And one that has all of that information deleted, so you can just quickly use it to create a course assignment as fast as you need to. In these templates, when you're running short on time, MS Word Researcher is the way to go to find sources. This is a very sort of secret tool that's not commonly used or shown, but is very, very useful for quickly managing to create citations and to read literature without flipping between many different screens. Using MS Word Researcher, you never have to leave Microsoft Word to find sources or cite them. The first step is going to be to open the References tab and to click Researcher. Researcher is this little button here, and when you click on it, a dialog box will open up on the right in which you can enter your search term. One specific tip is that if you're looking for terms that start or end at a certain year, for example, you can't cite research after before 2016, according to your assignment instructions, go ahead and put 2016 at the end of your search terms. This will limit the research that you receive to the year 2016 or beyond. In this Researcher tab that opens up, your key search after you complete it will be at the top. As I mentioned, go ahead and add a year at the end anytime you're looking for specific research that is relevant to the current field. When you're putting key terms in, Researcher doesn't do well with very many. Try to keep it to 4 words or less, and don't use sentences. So anything like, is or prepositions of any kind, keep those out if you want to receive more results. The results will appear right under the search term, like so. And you'll be able to scroll and look at multiple sources at the same time. There's also a feature of relevant topics, which appears on the initial search page. Relevant topics is great if you're just trying to define your ideas and arguments. So relevant topics is more for if you're not too familiar with the basics of the specific topic and you need some background information. Or in your introduction paragraphs where you're trying to give background information on a specific idea. This can be very useful for those paragraphs as you're just starting. Here you can read a little bit about the topic, and then you can explore journals, books, and websites that describe the overall topic rather than a study in that topic. This is specifically pretty useful when you're doing methodology and you're trying to describe specific ways of conducting tests or performing interventions, because you can quickly find the main citation for whose method that is. When you go ahead to these top sources for your key term, be sure you click on journals. Now, it is okay to cite websites as long as they are from reputable sources. However, you should really be limiting yourself to peer-reviewed journals whenever possible. So before you start reviewing these sources, click on journals to limit the sources that you're scrolling through to journal articles. From there, you can open each of these citations. When you click on the citation, it will open up the entire abstract for the citation. This is very useful because you can review all of the main information about the source, including its methodology and the significance of its results. Of course, we never recommend citing something that we haven't read. So scroll down to Open in Browser in order to open this source and read it and be sure that it says what you are trying to say that it says. Never just cite a source off of the abstract. It could be that somewhere in the discussion or the conclusions that it actually has a limitation that means it does not support your specific argument. So you definitely need to check before you cite. Once you've done that and you've checked the source, you can click Add this source as a citation. This will add the citation perfectly formatted in APA to wherever your cursor is placed. So what that looks like, see if I can zoom in a bit. When you click on the plus sign here, where the 6 is over here, the citation for the source will be added to the paper wherever your cursor is placed. A dialog box will open asking you if you want to update your bibliography. You're going to click yes, because what this does is this creates the reference entry as well for the source, so you don't have to create that either. The full text reference will then be added to your reference list at the end of your template. It's important to note though, unless you use this APA template that we've created, you're going to have to fix the bibliography because it's just formatted in MS Word's formatting to start unless you use our template. So it won't have a proper APA header, for example. You'll need to adjust it before you continue, which I've demonstrated here. All you're going to do is basically center, bold, and place references in Times New Roman 12-point font. Not a big change, pretty simple given that you're going to be able to get pre-formatted references entered using this software. When you're done with your reference entries all the way, highlight them all and double space them. Remove any of those extra instruction labels that MS Word might have included, like update your citation style. Those can just be deleted before you submit your paper. However, if you just use our template, all of this is done for you, which you can find right here and above on the page where I previously discussed. So that's MS Word Researcher, very useful. There's also MS Word Citation Manager to cite your sources. If you don't use Researcher, you can still use MS Word's ability to pre-format citations. What you're going to do is click on Insert Citations, which is right here next to Researcher. When you click on Insert Citations, a little box is going to open with an option to add a new source. Click on that, and MS Word will open up a little dialog box that lets you put all the information for your source into it, including the author's name, the title, the year, the page range, and so on. That seems like extra work, but it's worth the time doing it because not only will MS Word allow you to auto-insert your in-text citations based on that source, it'll create that reference entry at the end for you. So you're not doing any extra work to do this. You're creating your reference list as you go, and you're creating the ability to click on this Insert Citation tab and have all of your references there. So as you're writing, for example, if you're citing Smith, you can click on Insert Citation and click on Smith anywhere in your paper that you're writing, and it will just put in the in-text citation parenthetically for you. You won't have to type it out again or check the year or figure out how to cite it correctly, where the commas go, and so on. It does it for you. This is a really useful tool for being sure that your citations are consistent because they'll always be the same if you use it this way. If you're at all worried about inserting the information and checking to be sure that it's the right citation format, again, I'll scroll up quickly. You can utilize our in-text citation tool at any time to check and be sure that it looks correct. We have the reference version and we have the in-text version. So if you're using MS Word and in revision you're a little bit worried that it might not be the correct APA format, you can just scroll up here and take a look at how it should be and double check. So that is the functions that we recommend for if you don't have much time. Scroll back down. No matter how much time you have to complete an assignment, you cannot avoid revision. As one of my favorite authors said, it does not do to leave a live dragon out of your calculations if you live near one. For writers, that dragon is revision. You cannot skip revision. It's almost nearly impossible to create a perfect draft the very first time that you start writing an assignment. So be sure to at least include a couple of hours at the end of your writing experience to revise your assignment using some of these strategies. Much like the source finding checklist that we just went through, depending on how much time you have, we have 3 options here for how much time that you might have available for your revision. If you've been planning ahead, we of course recommend, as the best strategy we can offer, using our feedback appointments. When you schedule an appointment with the Online Writing Center, you'll receive in-depth feedback from one of our professional or peer tutors on your assignment and the thematic errors that you might need to revise before you submit. So what this means is we look for where you would lose the most points overall on your assignment, and we focus on where they're appearing the most often to help you to remove that entire error theme from your document, which will help you not only to be quick in revision because you can focus on a couple of the key issues, it will also help you retain the most points for your assignment because instructors frequently take off the most points for repeating errors or systematic errors. To get this kind of feedback, you don't have to submit your final draft. Another important time management strategy is knowing that you could submit a paragraph of your paper to the Online Writing Center, and we would be sure to review that and give you feedback that you could apply then to the rest of your writing. So if you can't get that whole paper written in time to receive feedback from us, share your outline, share your thesis statement, share a couple of pages. We can give you feedback on the smallest amount of writing to help you to finish the assignment being very attentive to specific issues that you might need to revise. Here's our feedback schedule for your planning. We recommend that you submit your work at least 3 days before it's due. This is because we take 2 days to review work after appointments, and you need at least a day or maybe half a day to revise and resubmit your assignment. By which I mean submitting it to your instructor, not resubmitting it to the Online Campus Learning Writing Center. So in the schedule here, if you make an appointment on Monday, you'll receive feedback on Wednesday. If you make an appointment on Tuesday, you'll receive feedback on Thursday. If you make an appointment on Wednesday, Friday, Thursday appointment, Saturday feedback, Friday appointment, Sunday feedback. It's also important to know that we only have a certain number of staff at any given time, so there's not unlimited appointments for each of these days. You can make appointments ahead of time if you know when your assignment is due, and then upload your assignment when it's done. So for example, if you know that you have an assignment due Thursday, you can make an appointment for Monday the week before without adding the assignment and then add it that Monday for us to review. If this is not an option because of time, we recommend that you use MS Word's Read to Me function. So a very good strategy for figuring out whether your assignment sounds correct or says what you want it to say is to listen to it. Of course, reading it aloud to yourself is a really good option because you know what you were trying to say and how you want it to sound, but sometimes it's useful to hear how someone else would read it. This shows us where something might not sound as natural as we thought it did. So to do this, you can use the Read Aloud feature. You'll click the Review tab and simply click the Read Aloud button. It'll open a dialog box, very small, on the side, and you just click play, and it will start reading your paper to you so that you can listen to it and see if it says what you intended. There's a little quick tutorial here available if you have any trouble finding it that demonstrates how it works, but it's quite simple and usually works no matter whether you're using the mobile version of Word or the PC or Mac desktop version. One of the last steps that you can do is to use a reverse outline. So if you did any of the initial steps that we described in this workshop, you can use a reverse outline to check that you did what you set out to do. So for example, in this reverse outline that we recommend, for each section, you can ask yourself questions about the main idea, the evidence you used, your analysis of it, and the link to the next section. This is a great way of being sure that you completed those actionable tasks that you created in our outline step that we started with. So for example, if the comment on your header for one section says that you were supposed to examine the significance of a theory in a case study, you can easily look at your main idea in that section based on that comment and see, did I make that purpose clear? Did I make claims related to that purpose? What did I want my reader to take away? Does it say that? For your evidence, you can be sure that you're double checking each section, asking yourself, did I provide evidence to support every claim? A claim can be understood as something that someone could argue against. So I might not argue against the fact that clouds exist, but I might argue about how clouds impact certain people's feelings in terms of emotion studies, for example. So if I start describing an opinion in that way, now I need a citation to back up my claim. Then, is all of my evidence relevant for the purpose of this section? This is a question that makes sure we haven't added anything that doesn't relate to the topic in our outline for that specific paragraph or section. You can also ask yourself, did I explain the evidence? This is important. If you just cited the source, but you didn't use a sentence afterwards that explained why it was significant to the reader, you leave the reader to determine why it was significant themselves. This means they could come to a different conclusion than you did, which creates possibilities for errors in your paper. So unpacking quotes and citations in terms of adding your sources means making sure if you add a source, you add a sentence that explains that source after. Then the reverse outline asks you, did the section explain how the subtopic related to the overall argument? This is a big part of cohesion and flow. When you're reverse outlining and you look at the end of each paragraph, if you can't answer that question, it's a good tip that that paragraph doesn't connect back to the original argument, meaning you should add one more sentence before you turn your work in that explains how that sub idea in those paragraphs relates to your overall argument. This is a reverse outline, and it's only one kind. So you can always search for more outlines that work for you when doing revision, but these questions usually work pretty well, as these are the same kinds of questions we use when we're providing feedback and grading your writing. If you take a look at your rubrics for the assignments that you do at the TCSPP, you'll see that most of the rubrics cover these kinds of questions. So if you can answer these questions in revision before you submit your work, you can be more confident knowing that you managed your time well and completed the tasks you were asked to do. So that's it in terms of our time management strategies that we can offer. As I said, here I've been demonstrating material off of the time management page of our new website. You can access this website here with this nice shorter URL compared to the last one, owlc-tcs.com. To find the specific page, add /time-management. At this time, we have a couple of minutes if anyone has any questions. Okay. Well, if you do find you have any questions about any of the resources we provided today, or you'd like any assistance on implementing them into your time management strategies, please do reach out to us at any time. We are happy to help. Otherwise, have a good evening, and we hope to review your work soon.